Welcome, everyone. For those that I may not had the chance to meet before, I'm Chelsea LaRue, Executive Director of Iowa Travel Industry Partners. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar hosted by our Education Committee. Just a couple of reminders. Please do make sure you mute yourself if you haven't already, but feel free to leave your camera on. It always makes it nicer for our presenters if they can actually see the faces that they're talking to. Today's session is being recorded, and the recording will be available usually early next week. It will live in the member portal. I'll email it out as well as a copy of the slides from the presentation today. A couple of quick reminders before we jump in. iTIP has a lot of moving parts and projects and pieces right now. So there's been a lot of fast approaching deadlines and dates that went out in the newsletter last week. We'll send some reminders as they continue to come up. But just a couple of quick reminders. Member satisfaction survey is open right now through tomorrow. Take that for a chance to win a discount on your membership renewal. Award nominations are open now through April 9th. It's a chance for us to celebrate our industry partners and the really cool things that they're doing. We will recognize those partners and present the awards during summer celebration in Winterset this year. We are seeking donations for our online silent auction. Think of it as a cool promotional opportunity to promote your destination, your organization, your attraction. Anybody with internet access can bid on them. So it's another way to get some new visitors to your destination. Those donations are accepted through April 11th, and then we'll run the auction during National Travel and Tourism Week in May. Also during summer celebration, we have a segment called High Five. Think of it 90 ideas in 90 minutes sort of concept. If you would like to share a really cool idea that you're working on right now, submit a application to present, and Education Committee will review those to make our selections. And then this is the final call for meeting sponsorship opportunities. iTIP will be at MPI Meeting Planners International's their large trade show in June. It's up in St. Louis, and those sponsorships close April 18th. And then finally, we are seeking nominations of new board members for the association and the foundation. We're accepting those nominations through April 21st. So lots of good things. I'll drop links and dates and deadlines in the chat so you don't have to try to remember what did she just say. But with that, I'm really excited that today we are joined by our vendor partner, McDaniels Marketing. We have Jim Hoover, the Web Development Director, and Zach Singleton, SEO Specialist, with us. Jim combines decades of problem-solving expertise and a passion for creating seamless, high-performing websites, while Zach ensures your brand story is both compelling and discoverable, using creativity and technical know-how to optimize your online presence. Today, they will share how a strategic blogging approach can boost your SEO, increase user engagement, and drive more traffic to your website. So, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chelsea and iTIP for having us. We're excited to present. We'll give it a second here just to make sure that everybody can see the screen. All right, so as Chelsea mentioned, we're going to talk about driving engagement, how to avoid getting roadblogged. So all about blogs and SEO and user engagement. And as she mentioned, my name's Jim Hoover. I'm the Web Development Director here at McDaniels Marketing.
Yeah, I'm Zach Singleton, the SEO Specialist.
So a couple things, just kind of give you an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the why. Why is blogging so important when it comes to SEO and when it comes to user engagement? How to write blogs that users want to read, keyword research, kind of the tips and tricks that we have when we're writing blogs, and then some of the strategies that we use, things such as ranch style blogs versus skyscrapers, authorship, AI, and then internal linking strategies that are available as well when it comes to blogging.
Yeah, and the main overarching question that we're going to be trying to answer for you guys is, does blogging still matter for SEO? Blogging had a moment, I think, in the 2010s, and got really popular, and then I think people are still wondering, does it really matter? And I think the way we'd answer that question is yes. Like, blogging is a very versatile tool to be able to really cater the content on your website to the things that your audience actually cares about. So especially when you're thinking about the rise of AI and AI overviews right now, blogging is a really great tool to really engage with your audience and hopefully appear to people as they're searching online even more. And there's also there's some technical benefits to SEO. So thinking about like keyword use, blogs are a really great way, not only to target, general high volume keywords, but being able to plug in like all those search terms that people are using on a day-to-day basis. It helps with your overall site structure on your website. So thinking about internal linking opportunities, if you mention an event in a blog, you can link to that event page on your site, things like that. And then thinking about authorship as well. So improving the authority of your website by having, guest blog posts, or even just local businesses writing blogs about their business on your website.
So as we all know, when we talk about SEO, Google's really king. Our goal with SEO is to show up higher in Google search results and drive more organic traffic to the site via those search results. The results are obviously determined by Google's algorithm. It's constantly changing. There's been a number of updates. In fact, I think we just got notice that one of the March updates literally ended today. But a lot of their most recent updates have really been focused on helpful content. The idea that what you write should be helpful to the user. They're really focused on writing for humans, not search engines, showing your expertise, and then, of course, making sure that you answer questions. That's always kind of a key thing that we always stress to people is we don't try to trick people into reading the blog post by posting one title and then never answering the question. It's always important that your users understand what you're writing for. And blogging is just such a great way to kind of bring that helpful content to life. It gives you the opportunity to show off your expertise. Nobody knows your destinations better than probably you guys do. So you can really show off what's great about your destination. You can answer people's specific questions via blogs, things such as what events are coming up, what are some, the best things to do in summer in your destination. It gives you the opportunity to really answer specific questions, and then it gives you the capability to talk directly to people when you're blogging. You're not necessarily writing to an algorithm or a search engine. You're writing to a specific group of people who are reading your site and wanting to learn more about your destination. And whenever we write a blog, whenever we post a new blog, that just helps grow the index of your website. So Google has an index of every site on the web, and it uses that to kind of decide what order things go in. And authority score becomes really important when it comes to indexed content. And the more that you can add to the index, the more that you can answer people's questions, that just increases your rankings within the site and can help you show up earlier when people are searching your destination or near your destination or specific events in your destination. The other thing that's really important with index content is relevancy and recent data. Google wants to make sure it's showing people up-to-date information. It doesn't want to be showing, information from 5 years ago. Things have changed so much just even within the last couple of years. So when you're blogging, you're just constantly increasing that recent data to your website. You're showing Google that, you've written new content, that you're addressing current concerns, not necessarily past concerns and past questions. So blogging is just a great way to kind of show Google that you're an expert, that you're answering people's recent questions, and that you're adding value to your website over time.
Yeah, and blogging is really helpful and important specifically within the tourism industry, which is what you guys really care about. I like to say that having a blog allows you to welcome people to your destination before they even visit. So when you think about, you're planning a trip or you this summer want to go somewhere, a lot of people respond really well to getting actual recommendations for where they should go, where they should visit. And your blog is kind of a way for you to recommend yourself to people and present itineraries and things to do. But then especially as you're thinking about, guest posting and things like that, your blog is just, again, a really versatile tool to display what makes your destination special, highlight those specific insider gems that make your place your destination a place that people would enjoy. And so some overall trends in tourism blogging specifically, there's a big emphasis on the user experience. So again, kind of getting those real world recommendations of where to go. Blogging really highlights that. There's a utilization of visuals to support content. So people really respond to videos and images of your destination. Like I mentioned, linking blog posts to events and attraction pages can draw more traffic to those events page. So if you're promoting an event, mentioning it on your blog is really, really important. And then considering the rise of voice to text, making sure that blogs are formatted around common questions. That's another big trend. So when you think people talking to their Alexa or Siri, they are asking actual questions when they're doing searches in that way. And so, what events are happening in blank this weekend, top things to do in blank this spring. Those are great ways to format your blog around the questions that people are actually speaking.
So when we talk about writing a blog or we're beginning to start the blog process, there's a couple things that we always want to keep in mind. And one of the first things we always want to make sure is that our blogs are accurate and they're reliable. If people are going to be using these to help plan their trips, to learn more about your destination, we want to make sure the information we're giving them is accurate. So we always recommend that you reach out to the source of truth, the local businesses, the people running specific events. Make sure that they're fact checking what you're putting out. If you talk about specific sales that maybe a business is running or a specific, event that somebody's running, make sure that information is correct. We'll talk a lot about linking throughout this presentation, but again, this is a great opportunity as well to cross-link. Make sure that you're linking to those sources of truth. If there's an event page on Facebook, or if it's a local business, link to their business page. So that way people can go to that source and learn more about that local business and get the information that they need. And then finally, make sure that you're being as specific as possible without setting yourself up with a whole bunch of more work. One of the things we see a lot of times with blog posts is people try to get almost too specific. They might decide like, oh, we're going to put prices of food in, or we're going to put hours of operation in, and that can set up a lot of headaches later on when those hours change and those prices change. So it's okay to mention specific things, but we do want to make sure that we're being vague enough that we're not setting ourselves up for a lot more work later. Our frustrated visitors when they get to a destination or to a business and things have changed and they didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. The other thing we always want to make sure is that we're being compliant when we're blogging. We're going to talk about this more later, but we'll kind of talk about ADA with blogging and why that's still important. The other thing is to make sure that when you're blogging, you're being an accurate representation of your community, that you're respecting either local regulations or local traditions that maybe are involved. It's also a great opportunity to explain those to the visitors. If there's certain local regulations that ask people to please not take photography of certain areas, make sure that you're explaining that in the blog post. So that way your visitors can understand why that's important to your community, that they not take photos of certain things. We always want to make sure that we're citing our sources. I think we've all learned that since high school. It can get to be a little bit of the Wild West on the web at times, but it's really important that when you're using content from a third party or an influencer, you're citing your sources and we're not stealing content from other websites. We can't take a blog off of another website and just put it on our own site. That's not fair to the person who wrote the original blog. And it can be considered copyright infringement. And then finally, make sure that you're maintaining your design standards. Zach talked a little bit about kind of blogging in like the 90s and early 2000s, and the big push was separate blog sites. It was blog.destination.com. We've really moved away from that. We want the blog to feel as part of our website. It's not its own thing anymore. It's going to have the same look and tone and feel as the rest of our website would.
Yeah, and blogging is also a really great way to just get the whole community involved. I think one really cool thing about tourism promotion just in general is it's not just, one team of people in charge of promoting the community. You have a whole group of local businesses, just local people living in the community who can help you promote what your destination has to offer. And so blogging can help you empower local voices. Blogging provides a platform for community members to share their authentic stories and community insights, things that maybe you don't even know about. And depending on the context, it could even preserve some like cultural heritage. I'm thinking about different holidays and events going on in the community. There's some economic benefits to blogs. So blogs can drive visitor interest to lesser known attractions. So you think of those businesses that maybe are a little bit off the beaten path. Highlighting those in the blog can be a way for you to drive traffic to those places that need help. And then overall, I think it just bolsters community pride. If like everybody's all in together, they'll care about it, so strengthening an appreciation for the community. It facilitates new connections between residents, like as you're working together. And then it just encourages, like I said, an all-in attitude for sustainable tourism promotion long-term. And I've mentioned this a few times, but guest posting is a really great way to not only get the community involved, but getting an outsider's perspective. And so Jim mentioned this briefly, but influencer collaborations are really great ways to kind of beef up your blog. I kind of look at this as like an insider-outsider perspective. Getting an outsider perspective is sort of like having your friend recommend a destination that you never heard of before. And that's what the influencer could do. So especially if you find influencers that speak to your target audience. So like, let's say your destination has a lot of really good hiking trails, finding an influencer that talks about hiking a lot, or an influencer that likes to go to a lot of restaurants, and you have a lot of really great restaurants, that would be a great influencer to come, like, taste all the things you have to offer and then write about it. And so that's one way. And then local business spotlight, I've kind of already mentioned this, but this is the insider perspective. So getting local people, businesses to write content for your website, highlight those hidden gems that only a local would know about. Getting both sides of that coin can be a really great way to, like I said, beef up your blog. And I always say balance promo blogs with informational content. So it's really great to use your blog to, highlight events and upcoming things, but also make sure you're balancing that promo content with information, experience, guest post. Every piece of content should add value to your website and help people solve a problem or know where to get their questions answered. And I always say encourage engagement without being overbearing. You want to display what your destination has to offer without necessarily pressuring people that you have to do this in order to know. All right, so we talked a lot about blogging in general. I really wanted to show you guys a very specific behind the curtain example of how to go about creating a blog from scratch. So we've mentioned a few times, blogging is a really great way to know what people are searching for and then catering your web content specifically to that. And the way to do that is through keyword research. Keyword research is essential if you want to create content that is helpful and engaging. Keyword research is the process of discovering those high volume words and phrases that people use to find websites like yours, and then kind of anticipating the topics that your target audience will want to search in the future. So this scary spreadsheet here, I'm going to explain it. One of our clients is Experience Champaign-Urbana, Experience CU. And so this is some keyword research I did for them last fall. So the way I format this is on the far left-hand side there, I have their top 25 organic keywords. So those are the organic keywords that they automatically rank for. So those are the top things that people type into the search bar and the Experience CU website comes up for. And you'll notice that a lot of them are variations of Champaign or Champaign-Urbana, kind of the classic things you think of for their top keywords. That next column, recommended keywords, is the keyword research that I did. So all of those recommended keywords are keywords that they rank for, but maybe don't rank super, super high for in the search results right now. So, Champaign restaurants, they're in the 10th position, and there's a really high search volume for that keyword. And so what I do from here is once I get those recommended keywords, I look and just see, are there any good blog topics that I can pull from that? And this is actually, we'll talk about AI a little bit later, the uses of AI in blogging, but this could be a really great way to use AI, not to write a blog. We never recommend using AI to write a blog, but you can basically dump that keyword list into an AI tool and say, using this keyword list, can you help me come up with some topics to write a blog about? And so that's a really great way to use AI. There's also you can just use your creativity based on these keywords. But something I noticed in this keyword list is there's a lot of search at this time about U of I. So students were starting school. It was the fall. There was a lot of search about restaurants, a lot of search about what students can do to spend their time now that they're starting school. And so blogging, what you want to do is once you get those keywords, you're trying to craft compelling content. So we've decided our topic needs to be something about the student experience coming to the U of I. You want it to still be compelling. So not only for that student, but you're also thinking about other readers. So how can you target not just that student audience, but also target the broader audience that are going to be visiting Champaign-Urbana? And so then what I do is I dig in even more. So now that we have our topic, we want to write a blog about what students can do in the fall when they come to campus. I dig in even more. So within that topic, what are some specific keywords that people are using to get more information about that? And so you'll see that off to the right there. Specific things about where to eat, bucket lists for students, campus guides, study locations, all that sort of stuff. You use the drill down keyword set to kind of as a guide as you're like writing the actual blog. And so this is the blog we actually came up with from all this keyword research. 7 things you should know as a student at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And so what I like about this, first of all, it's a list format. So that's actually still a really great way to rank on Google, is if your title includes 7 things or the top 10 things to do and stuff like that. And so, yeah, we have that listicle format. But then it's also when you actually read the blog, it's not just about the student experience. It's about parents coming to drop their kids off. It's about a lot of other things. And so this content, while it's good and it's targeting the topic we were going for, it's also fairly evergreen. So every single year, hopefully this blog will be able to rank for those keywords that people are searching for at the start of the school year. And then the other thing to note is those orange words throughout the blog. Those are the internal linking opportunities that we keep talking about. So all of those words link to other spots on the website. And that's just going to help your overall site structure. It's going to help Google discover more things on your website. And so, yeah, we want to create relevant and valuable content. So that was the whole point of doing that keyword research, coming up with that topic, creating that blog. And these are just some more tips as you're thinking about writing blogs like that. So you always want to utilize storytelling techniques, share compelling visitor stories and case studies to connect emotionally with readers. Again, incorporate visuals using those images and infographics. That blog I just showed you had a lot of really great images of students actually engaging with the community in Champaign-Urbana. And then, like Jim mentioned, ensuring you have accurate information. So one way to do this is making sure you're not getting too specific about prices, about opening and closing times and things like that. Highlight the things and make sure it stays accurate and evergreen. And then one big tip right now, a big trend in blogging for SEO is ranch style SEO. So it's ranch style SEO versus skyscraper SEO. And the movement here is instead of the trend used to be creating an ultimate guide. So everything you possibly need to know about a topic, write a blog about that and put it on your website. And we've seen a little bit of movement away from those ultimate guides to more of a ranch style blog, which is more siloed, topic specific. And the reason for that is kind of thinking about those AI overviews, thinking about answering specific user questions, having more siloed content is easier for people to read. It's easier for search engines to know what is in the content of a page and not get confused. So we always tell people, make sure when you're writing a blog, try to keep it as specific as possible while catering to a fairly wide audience.
So as Zach mentioned, lots of topic on AI. It wouldn't be an SEO presentation if AI wasn't mentioned, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger topic. And really, there's 2 sides when we talk about AI with blogging. And the first one we're going to talk about is generative AI. So these are the search results within Google. So when you search something, such as we have our example here, a weekend itinerary for Peoria, Illinois, you get a generative AI result. Which is becoming more and more popular. I think we've probably all seen them at this point, kind of seen what they look like. And it's becoming more and more important to find your way into these spaces. There's still some questions on whether or not this is going to increase traffic to your website. We don't really necessarily know the answer to that yet. There's still a lot of research being done on that. But the fact is this area exists whether you're in it or not. And by being in it, you can help increase your brand awareness and your authority within Google. And hopefully that leads to more organic traffic down the road at some point, even if they're not necessarily clicking on it here. But you can see kind of the different itineraries in there, and you can see it's not just the big brands necessarily getting into generative AI. The second source that's included is a make it fun for mom blog. So it's a smaller blog based out of Peoria that's talking about, an itinerary within there and what you can do in Peoria. So there's opportunities to get into this space and get people to see you as a point of authority, even if they're not necessarily clicking through. So that can be really important. And then the impact, kind of the flip side of that is, so you have the search results in AI, and then the flip side of that, and Zach touched on this a little bit, is using AI for blogging. So we really caution against writing your blogs with AI. Google's getting better and better at recognizing AI generated content, and it's dropping those down in the search results. It doesn't like that. It wants, even though it's going to show its results with AI, it wants it to be written by humans. So there's uses for AI. We talked about it. It can help you outline a blog, kind of come up with an idea of maybe how your blog can be structured. It can help you come up with ideas for the blog. As Zach mentioned, you have some keywords. How can we kind of tie those together into a blog idea? And it might even help you come up with fun titles for your blogs. It can do things like that. It's just, we don't want it to replace that human touch in writing. The other thing we always want to make sure we touch base on is making sure we're compliant in blogs, that anybody who's on the web can read our blogs regardless of any type of disability. So just as we make our physical spaces accessible, we want our online spaces to be accessible too. So we always want to keep that in mind when we're writing blogs. If we're adding images, that we include all the image tags, that the pages are in a logically organized manner, and that we're using our headers. Sometimes we run into blogs and there's no headers, there's no subheaders. Google really likes those H1s, H2s, H3s, because it helps it understand how your page is structured. So that's really important to still include those subheaders in blogs. We've talked a lot about adding links to the blogs. So you want to make sure that you include descriptive anchor text. People know where that link is taking them if they can't see the text necessarily and they're using a screen reader. And then finally, we always want to make sure our contrast colors are bright enough that people can see them and read them easily. This all really comes down to building trust with the visitors. We want people who read our blogs to trust us. And part of that is also authorship. And this is becoming really more important. It used to be we write a blog, it was just posted by anonymous, and it was fine. But more and more, especially as we start using guest bloggers and influencers, people want to know who's writing the blog, who this person is. That can really matter. So don't be afraid to include your authorship. If you're the expert on the community, it's okay to say you wrote this blog. If you had a local business owner write it, it's okay to say that this person wrote the blog, or an influencer, any of those types of people, and then link out to something about you. A lot of times that can just be your LinkedIn page to explain why you're an expert. If you've been working in tourism in your area for 2 decades, that means a lot to people, and it means something to Google as well, to show that we're showing who wrote this blog and why they're an expert to the people who are reading it. That can really make a difference. And then finally, we've talked a lot about the blogging process. Once the blog is written, once it's live on your website, the most important thing is to promote it and share it. Utilize your social media channels, share your posts on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn, whatever one you're doing. Make sure people see that you posted a new blog. Engage with online communities. There's a lot of forums out there about specific tourism topics. You can share your post via those things. There's train groups and all sorts of stuff. If you write a train blog, don't be afraid to share it with that community and let them know what your destination has to offer. And then finally, our biggest thing with blogging and this in general is the idea that this brings in your whole community. Everybody kind of raises the boat when we work on blogging and promoting our destination. So utilizing cross promotion, utilizing guest blogging, and that can go both ways. Just as you may ask somebody to, guest blog on your website, you can go and guest blog on somebody else's website. Everybody can kind of help each other out and build that authority and get more people to your destination.
So we kind of just wanted to end our presentation with giving you guys some examples of some blogs that we really like.
I think we'll answer some questions then after Zach shows some of the blogs, because I know we have a couple questions, I think, in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the first one here, this is one of our clients, Defiance, Ohio. This is their blog. So the first thing that I wanted to point out here is I encourage you all to come up with a fun name for your blog. It doesn't just have to be blog or destination blog. They use Tales of Defiance. Their city name is Defiance, Ohio, and so they utilize that and say Tales of Defiance. I think that's a really great way. Really fun. But what I really like about them is they highlight their local businesses a lot in their blog. So this is their most recent blog that we posted for them, for a local jeweler that they have. And so we went in and interviewed the local jewelry shop, got some information, and then wrote a blog about them. So that's a really great way to highlight some hidden gems at a destination. And then we have Lake of the Ozarks, so the Fun Lake blog. And what I like about how they use their blogging or do their blogging strategy is they take a lot of high volume keywords and then try to tie those keywords into the offerings that they have. So we did some keyword research for them and saw a lot of search around the term wellness retreats and people planning wellness retreats. So thinking about spas and massages and relaxing days at the beach. And we wrote a blog about that. So not only talking about how to plan a wellness retreat, but specific spas and lakeside resorts, outdoor adventure spots that you can experience when you visit Lake of the Ozarks.
And some of that was through an influencer as well.
Yeah, so this image is actually, we had an influencer come, I think sometime last year,
Mm-hmm.
And she took a lot of pictures for us. She wrote some content for us and all that, and we're still able to use a lot of her images that she had on our new blog posts. And so then another one we have here is Visit Shipshewana, Indiana. And so this one simply I really like because it's that listicle form again. So we saw a lot of search about planning things in Amish country in the spring. And so we helped them write a blog, 10 things to do this spring in Shipshewana, Indiana. And one really cool thing about this blog is when we do their SEO reports and their organic traffic reports every single quarter, this blog for the past 2 or 3 quarters has appeared in their top 10 landing pages. So this is getting a lot of traffic to their site right now, which has been really encouraging to see. And then this is actually not one of our clients, but Saugatuck, Michigan, recently had a blog post, Take an Early Moon Along the Art Coast. And so a couple of cool things about this is it is targeting a high volume keyword. So right now, the past maybe 6 months, the term early moon has been really popular. People planning trips right before their wedding, which to me sounds very stressful, but it's a thing people do, I guess. So early moon, but then also it's highlighting an alternative name for the cities along the coast of Michigan, on Lake Michigan. So that's a really great way to, it's not just saying early moons in Saugatuck, it's early moon in Art Coast, which is kind of like one of their nicknames. And so that's a really great way to incorporate that. And then finally, we have one of our clients, LeClaire, Iowa. They have a fun blog title, The LeClaire Chronicle. And they have one of their recent posts was picking in LeClaire. And so it's all about antiquing in LeClaire and specifically highlighting antique archaeology, which is the home of the American Pickers TV show. And so what's really great about that blog post is it is kind of piggybacking, a LeClaire keyword is piggybacking on a higher volume keyword like antique archaeology and American Pickers. So those two terms are things the whole country searches for. And so tying the LeClaire specific keywords to those high volume keywords is a really great way to get more traffic and promote something that people seem to be really interested in. So yeah.
Yeah, if we want to, I think there was a couple questions in the chat I heard that we can go through and kind of answer.
Yes,
So
there was a chat from Maggie that said, to cite sources, can we quote people's reviews on Google reviews?
Yes, so you can include Google reviews on your website. You'll just want to make sure, hey, this was posted on a Google review on such and such day. Here's the review. That's perfectly fine. That's not an issue in terms of like those types of testimonials and stuff like that. And if you get other testimonials from people via Google or other sources, you can always share those as well on your blog posts if you're including those.
Absolutely. And if you happen to know the person who left the review, that's another great way to link to their LinkedIn page or invite them to write a blog, even depending on who they are. But yeah, that's a great way to utilize Google reviews.
So in terms of IDing keywords, I'll let Zach answer this a little bit. So we have a couple programs we use. Google Trends is a good free alternative that you can use because it shows you, what's trending right now on Google and what's really popular to search. So that is a good tool to use, but I think Zach can kind of talk about some of the other methods he uses.
Yeah, the main tool I use actually is SEMrush, which I really like, because not only does SEMrush and there are a lot of tools like SEMrush out there, but it'll show you not only what are the keywords you're ranking for, but give you recommendations on other related search terms that you could write a blog about or write more website copy about. The other thing I use is Search Console. So Search Console is a really great tool to use to know what keywords your content is already ranking for. And so if you do put out a blog, I always recommend trying to find that blog URL in Search Console, because you can click on it and see what keywords that specific that blog is ranking for. But you can do that for any landing page. So if you want to see what your homepage is ranking for, yeah, that's a really great way to do that.
Yeah, there's lots of keyword research tools, Google Trends, SEMrush. There's a ton of options. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, that are available to figure out kind of do keyword research and figure out what works best for you.
Yeah.
All right, what other questions do we have? You're welcome to unmute or drop it in the chat, whichever works best for you. Did we answer all your questions today?
One, I will say, I just thought of another one. One way I do blog research or keyword research is when I do come up with a topic, I will actually just Google that topic for a little bit to see if there are any other blogs related to that topic from other websites that I like. So, thinking about the student blog for Champaign, I did do a lot of Googling about, what to do when I'm moving into my dorm and stuff like that. And I find relevant blogs. And then what I can do, this is a great way to use AI, is you put those blogs you like through an AI tool and say, what are some keywords used in this blog that I could potentially use? And it'll give you a list of keywords that I then recommend you going and researching a little bit more. Don't just trust what the AI is pulling out of the blog. But that's a really great starting point as you're thinking about creating that keyword set, drilling in a little bit more, getting those blogs you like, finding out what they're ranking for, and then trying to cater a blog to that.
Sarah, I saw your hand. Go for it.
Yeah, I guess I feel like I have to chime in since I am a blogger. So I have been in this space for 17 years, and the AI has literally, and the whole Google helpful tool has been less than helpful to bloggers. And what's been frustrating for me is Google has literally taken my content and used it for AI. So the AI things that you're seeing, a lot of it's came from me. It is frustrating, and I mean we're all working through it. And I know I've worked with several of you on blogging over the years, and but it is frustrating. And about a year ago, I thought, you know what, I'm going to look at this blog post from 2014, just put it in here and see what AI says. It said it was written by AI. So that told me that Google has taken my content and used it for AI. So if somebody wants to check out my stuff to see if she uses AI to write, guess what? Some of my content is going to show that. And these are things that were written in 2014. So it's an animal. And I think authenticity, and now it's more important than ever that people in your community know who you are. That's reality for every single person representing a destination, an attraction, whatever it is. People need to know that you're a real person and what you do is real. And I know several of you saw, I had that. I'm now a contributor to U.S. News and World Report. And that came about from authenticity. So if anybody here wants to argue that authenticity and being real does not matter, I'm here to tell you that's what they all want. So I just think everybody here is killing it. And I think it's great that you had this program today because there's so many tools out there and just a great resource. So thank you for presenting. It was very good. And Chelsea and iTIP, thanks for having it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your insight, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. I think that, the authorship and the authenticity is just so important anymore in today's world. People have to know that you're a real person, especially when they're planning trips to your destination, spending money. They want to make sure they're committed to the real thing.
Well, and it's funny too, because the authentic content is the stuff that Google is, like you're saying, is taking to put in the AI overview. So even Google recognizes that authenticity is the thing we want. And so yeah, it's all about kind of like sticking to our guns and saying like, no, we're gonna be authentic. We're gonna write our own blogs. And I think, yeah, that's really important.
Yep.
Absolutely. Anybody think of any other questions while we've been chatting? Awesome. Well, with that, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you again to our presenters, Zach and Jim with McDaniels Marketing. Thank you. Your expertise is very welcomed in the industry. And like I mentioned, we did record today's session. I will share it out early next week, as well as a copy of the slides and the presentation. And with that, I hope to see you all again very soon. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks.